Good afternoon and welcome to today's VirTru live training event. Today we're joined by VirTru founder Leslie Unruh and Nathan Schock. As a lifelong learner, Nathan is passionate about helping organizations and businesses maximize their success by clearly communicating their mission, vision, and values. Nathan's entrepreneurial spirit has led him to work in business, politics, nonprofits, private equity, and higher education. Nathan and Leslie, so excited to have you today.
We are thrilled to be here, aren't we, Nathan?
I'm looking forward to this conversation. Have been all week.
Well, good. Awesome. Well, we go way back. And I think it's pretty exciting to see how everything has been going in your life. So let's jump into this. What in the world is experience design, Nathan?
Great question. So when we talk about experience design, what I want to do is just flip those two words. We want to design an experience for everyone who's important to our center. So we're talking about our guests, but we're also talking about our volunteers, our supporters, our donors, and crucially, our staff. And what we want is we want to design an experience that makes them feel a part of this, makes them feel welcome. Because what we know about experiences is that experiences mean more to people than simply products or services. So we have to, in our centers, we have to deliver services. That's what they come for. They come for the services. But what we like to say is they come back or they stay for the experience. So we want to be so intentional about the experience that people have that they just want to come back. They love it so much that they want to come back. So that's what we're primarily talking about in experience design. And there's so many ways that we can get into this. And that's what I'm excited to talk with you about today.
Well, and I love creativity and I love design. And so that's why I'm pretty excited that you're going to kind of break it all down and give us, how it impacts relationships with clients and how it gives you that first impression to be able to make a difference in their lives, and volunteers, supporters, all that makes a huge difference. And it's huge right when they walk in the door, isn't it, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely, Leslie. And the reason that I think taking an experience mindset, an experience design mindset for these centers can be such a big deal is that products and services sort of treat us like the old Homo economicus, right? It's just, I need a service, I show up, I buy the service, and I leave. But experiences deal with internal. We're talking feelings and perceptions, and nobody shows up there with any strange feelings, do they? I mean, they're a mix of emotions.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to speak to those and to bring out the kinds of emotions and feelings that make them feel included and welcome and wanted and loved. And so bringing that experience mindset, I think, can be a real game changer for these centers.
So what do you think the components, that's kind of a big word, that's kind of power-packed, but what are those?
Right. And one of the things that you quickly realize when you start to talk about experiences is that there's no detail that's too small.
Okay, that's good.
And when we think of experiences, we kind of think in a couple of broad categories. First is the physical environment. And I know when I've been to the Alpha Center, you can tell that all those details have been thought of, that you're walking into a very intentional space where there's not a big stack of manila envelopes sitting in the corner where people would walk in. There's very clear spaces for people. And maybe just talk, if you could, Leslie, share a little bit about all the thinking that went into that to make this feel like a great experience when you first walk into it.
Well, I'll tell you, just the other day, I decided to go sit outside on the little bench by the fountain and just look at everything and see it from the eyes of our clients that would walk in the door. And of course, I'm pretty picky on how things are supposed to be. So a few days later, we're replacing bushes. A few days later, we're doing some different things with the pots, and we're getting a new rug and those types of things. And because details matter, being able to open your eyes and see and feel what they're feeling. And so to me, it's a big deal. I say to my husband all the time when I go into his clinic, I'm like, you need me here to point things out, because he's not thinking in that way. So somebody on that team, or find somebody that can come in and just let you know, what did they feel? How did we make you feel when you walk through our doors?
Yeah, in almost every industry that we work with, people can so easily fall into the trap of thinking that their customers come there not for all the wall art or the throw rug at the entrance. They come here for the thing, right? So if I'm going to a chiropractor, I'm going to get healed. I don't care about all that other stuff.
Right.
But it's just not true. It's both.
Yes.
Yes, you have to meet their expectations on the services. That's why they're coming. But everyone is a person, like I said, with those internal feelings, and you have to pay attention to the experience too. The research shows we form our first impression within 7 seconds.
Boy, that's amazing.
That's how long you have. You have 7 seconds from the moment they walk in to where they have already decided almost everything about you. And at that point, they haven't met probably anyone other than whoever's sitting up front. They haven't seen what could be your best part of the entire facility. They're just walking in the front door. But after those first 7 seconds, something called confirmation bias kicks in. And that's our brain trying to convince us that that first impression that we made was the right one. So it's really hard to overcome. And that's why you have to be very intentional about the first impression when people walk into your space.
I love that. That is awesome. So how do you know when you've had that experience? What are the signals? How do you know that?
So what you see is you'll see a lot of times a change in their body posture.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So they might come in tense or thinking, is someone here going to take advantage of me? Or is there going to be anyone here I can connect with? And you'll see a relaxation, an openness. And that's where we get to kind of the second part. So we talked about the physical space, and that's an important part, but as big or bigger is the human to human interaction. That's where we really form our impression of a business. And we worked with Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore. They're the authors of the book, The Experience Economy, 2 amazing guys. And they were the ones that first identified this thing called experiences, that it even existed. And we worked with them to come up with those 5 components of a remarkable experience. That if you get those 5 right, you will have loyal volunteers, donors, clients, all of that. And so those 5 are, it's about time.
Okay.
So it's the time that they spend with you, not the products or services that they buy.
I like that.
It's not what you do, but it's how you do what you do. So again, they expect the service. They don't expect you to deliver it in a loving way. That's the way that you're able to do how you do what you do. The third is only and exactly. So the experience has to be particular to the individual. It's not one size fits all. You can't have the same greeting for every person. You can't interact with every person the same way. Everybody has the way they want to be interacted with. We say it's one better than the golden rule. The golden rule is pretty good, but we want the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would have you do unto them, right? Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And then the fourth is surprise. So what's the surprising thing you're going to do to make them feel like it was a great experience? And then the last of the five is all for one. And that's that everyone within the organization has to be bought in on the experience. It can't just be one or two people.
Yes.
So those are the five. You get those five right and you have nailed it.
Great. Well, this is perfect timing for me because later today I am going to be doing a tour to some folks that have been very generous, and they're going to be giving a nice check to us. And so, hey, I'm right on. I'm listening to everything you say. So we're going to put it to practice.
There you go. Good.
Yeah.
And one of the things too that we frequently get asked is, how do you know if you have a great client experience? How do you know if you have a great volunteer experience? Well, this is going to be a little radical. Ask them.
Like, oh, that's good.
Ask
them. Okay.
So we do we help a lot of our clients do very simple customer surveys. And back in the early days of customer experience and experience design, they used to have all these complicated surveys where they, because these are internal feelings, right? We have to get at all these different questions. But who likes to answer a 20 or 30 question survey? Nobody does that anymore. It's just delete. So they've really narrowed it down to one question, and that's what we call the net promoter question. And so all you're asking is, and everybody's seen this question somewhere, on a scale from 0 to 10, how likely are you to refer us to your friends and family? So by getting at their willingness to refer, you can discover, did they have a great experience? Because we're only willing to refer what was a great experience to us.
Sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Simple, but man, how'd you get so smart, Nathan?
I just hang around Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore as often as they
and can you say, I mean, at some point here, I don't know if it fits into maybe who they are, who they were. I think I was pretty amazed when I heard them speak to know how they did what they did and how they figured this all out. It's pretty amazing.
Right. So, Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore started these guys basically came up with an economic theory. And they looked across at all these businesses and said, okay, if you have a commodity and you customize it, it becomes a good. If you have a good and you customize it, it becomes a service. And if you have a service and you customize it, it becomes an experience. So if you think about that, delivering a customized service makes it a unique and remarkable experience. And what they found was the companies that have a great experience are the ones that are the most profitable. So let's take coffee for an example. So coffee, the beans that are in a coffee cup will cost you about 2 cents. I know I might have just ruined your day because everybody here is likely paying a lot more.
Yeah.
So that's that. But then the good is I can go to the store and I can buy Folgers. Why I would, but I would. And now that cup of coffee, because I'm buying the pre-roasted and ground bean, now it's about 20 cents a cup.
Okay.
So then the service is I can go to Denny's and get a bottomless cup of coffee and they'll pour it for me. Now I'm talking about $1.50. So I went from 2 cents to 20 cents to $1.50. Now, what would be a coffee experience?
Well, for me, Caribou.
There you go. Caribou or Starbucks, or as my grandpa called it, $4.
Oh, he's great. He was great.
He couldn't believe that anybody would pay $4 for a cup of coffee, but what you're paying for is the experience.
That's powerful. Wow. Yeah.
And so now you take what was 2 cents, and by kind of taking it up what they call the progression of economic value. Now it's $4.
Great
And,
analogy.
yeah, and as a business, that applies to everything that we do because we value a great experience.
Yes.
And what customers now we've seen is what they want is they want their goods and their services delivered as quickly and efficiently as possible so they can spend their time and money on experiences. So let's take this from a volunteer perspective.
Yes.
We can get in the trap of thinking our cause is so good. Well, of course, people would just want to show up and help,
Right.
and they get to save babies. Well, that should be good enough for them, right?
Right.
But we don't take the time to think about what's their experience like when they show up.
That's really good. That's really good. Yes.
Do we take the time to actually explain what they're supposed to do so they know and they're not guessing or looking at the person next to them and going, what am I supposed to do here?
Yes.
Do we take the time to affirm them and thank them? Are we writing them a handwritten note after thanking them for showing up?
How do we keep them? They come in expecting who knows what, but you're right. How do we keep them? That's great.
And one of the things that Jim Gilmore talks about a lot is what he calls the expectations gap.
Mm-hmm.
And so where people are disappointed in the experience is the gap between what they expect and what they get.
Mm.
So they may come in thinking, I'm going to change the world. This is going to be so fun and it's great.
Right.
And if what we think is, they're just the volunteers that are showing up on Tuesday and there'll be different ones Wednesday and we got to get these people in and I got to, if we look at it as a chore, now you have this huge gap.
Yes.
And from an experience standpoint, it's those gaps that are a killer.
That's really awesome.
Yes. Leslie, from your center,
mm-hmm.
where do you notice where people might fall through gaps? What were the ones that you had to fix early on for clients, for volunteers, where you're like, that's just not good? Because I know you didn't need Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore. You were just intuitive. You knew all this stuff, and I can see it in the design of the Alpha Center. So where are those gaps that people should look for as they're trying to have a great experience?
Well, I think relationships are so important and so necessary. And, we have so many different people coming to volunteer for so many different reasons. Sometimes it comes from pain in their own life because maybe they had an abortion and they just want to go somewhere and connect. Maybe it's because someone they're connected to has had that experience, or maybe it's a mom that's a birth mom who years ago, had chosen adoption for her child. There's so many different people that come and are drawn to Alpha Center to help us for so many different reasons. Or sometimes there are people that say, I believe this is important and I really want to be a part of it. And sometimes they come in with some
expectations
of thinking that we're maybe sitting around and praying all the time and we're not real people. And so for me and for the rest of our team, we know how important those volunteers are, and we need to love on them while they're here. And that if we give them a cookie and some great coffee and maybe a few meals and remember their birthdays and remember their anniversaries and have a celebration, Christmas party for them, a picnic. It's so important to just speak into their lives. Sending those appreciation cards really means everything. Just for me, even sometimes I have this very large dinner and 1,200 people are there. I want to connect with every single one and I can't always, but to have eye contact, really good eye contact, and give a good, thumbs up and a hug, it's really important. And to be real, and to let them know that you really do value them and they're important to this ministry.
Yeah. You think about, think about someone showing up to volunteer because they did have an abortion and they shared that information. Now you're right. They have a totally different set of expectations. And now if they come back in a couple of weeks later and you don't know that, or you don't remember it, now they're feeling like, do I fit in here? Do they care about me? Versus, yeah, versus connecting on some of those important details in their life.
Right. And I think sometimes we miss it. Over the years, I've had to learn the hard way a couple of times where I just have to sit back sometimes and just sit and listen. Just really listen to what they want to say. Not have it be what I want to say, but what do they want to say? What are they feeling? And it's amazing what you find out.
Yes. Yeah. One of the first and most important things about the experience is just being present.
Yeah.
Right. And yet what happens with so many of the places we walk into today, we see this.
Oh, I know. It's
I'm on my phone, and what message is that sending to someone who walks in the door?
Important. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
My 67th Snapchat of the last hour is more important than greeting you. But
just being on the screen, looking at the screen when somebody comes in your room and not getting up and walking forward. And right before I came up to do this with you today, I had the most amazing hug from a volunteer that I haven't seen in probably 20 years. And she just held on, hugged both hands, and she said, I want both hands hug. And because, she loves this place. She said, I give, our church gives. We're probably a widow's mite, but we love you. And here she was giving to me what I should have probably been giving to her earlier.
Yeah, it's so good. And I think, to get back on all of those details, and maybe we'll just end here and be willing to take some questions if anybody has questions. You think about that first impression, the importance of that first impression that I talked about. There's one more area that we have to think about the experience. There's the space, there's the people interaction, but in some cases, the experience comes before both of those. And I'm thinking about the telephone. So now, again, let's think someone's calling the center and they may be apprehensive. They've got all these emotions. Do I really want to go through with this? Is this the right place to go? Will they be able to help me? And the phone picks up and it's, thank you for calling the Alpha Center. Your call is very important to us. Press 2 for. But
now
that's
we have a real live person on there, and because of VirTru training, we got that down. I think we did a great job with that.
And that's not what you get when you call the Alpha Center, right?
No, you do not. You have a caring person who really cares, and you hear it and you see it. It's just an amazing experience.
Yeah. And that's hard.
Yeah.
Right. That's hard. It's hard to do. That's a big commitment. But again, when you bring an experience mindset to this, that allows you to think of those emotions that are swirling inside this person and think about what is going to be the most calming welcome on the phone to that person. It's going to be a caring voice on the other end. And so that is something that you guys have also done a great job on.
Well, that training is so important. It's so important.
Yes, because it's so easy. Even in our work, as someone who teaches this stuff, it's so easy for me to slide back into just service delivery, doing the thing and not thinking about the person that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, being present. I love it. Being present.
Yep, and when we work with companies, one of the things we walk through them with, and they pay us a lot of money for, is going through the entire touch points in their organization. So we walk through, okay, thinking about the phone, the front door, the greeting, for all the different audiences, the smell, the the sound,
Yeah.
all those different aspects. And in order to help everyone here kind of walk through what we do, we're making the document that we use to walk through that available to you for free. So we call it our 100 touch points document. And I think we put it in the chat. So Alyssa put it in the chat. So you can download that for free.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate
and use it. Just use that to walk through your center and look at every single one of those touch points and think about, is this giving the kind of experience that's going to make people want to come back and just naturally like to be here? Because that's such an important
part. You never get a second chance to make a first impression, right?
That's absolutely right. My mom used to always say that. Actually, I think my grandma said it first.
Well, you have a great grandma and a wonderful mom. Yes.
And I should have listened to them. I had to wait to hear from Pine and Gilmore, but my grandma was telling it to me first.
Yeah. Well, this has been great today. I just can't thank you enough for all that you've done for pregnancy centers all across the country. And I just want to say thanks from the bottom of my heart. I've known you a long time, and I know how God has really impacted your life, and you are impacting lives all over the world, really, through VirTru. And so we want to say thanks. I know everybody out there is going to be pretty excited for this segment. Thank you so much for this training.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be involved in your great vision and mission, because sometimes the things that we do aren't as impactful as saving babies. And to be able to do that here is just a real pleasure. When I stopped at experiences, there's one more level beyond experiences, and it's called transformations.
Okay, let's go there. Good.
And so when we talk about experiences, again, if you think about what goes on inside a person, we want transformation. We want life transformation. We want people to come in uncertain and unsure, and to go away with the peace and love that only comes from above. And so if you look at Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore's book, right?
Yeah.
The dedication of the book is to be author and perfecter of our faith. And so I think the first person who really got experiences right was Jesus, because there was nobody more present with people than he was. And so when we think about experiences, that's just another way to talk about engaging them as a person.
It's wonderful. That is perfect. Perfect ending. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie. And to all of you out there, good luck designing a memorable experience for your clients, donors, and volunteers.
It's been a great experience today, Nathan. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. Take care.
You too.